Thank you very much, Mr. Giri, for steering that very interesting panel discussion on AI governance, regulations, and global standards. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you. I'm your host for the next panel, panel 4, for the Congress session today. My name is Drupad Mathur, and we look forward to an interesting discussion on AI, cybersecurity, and digital trust. I have with me a lineup of esteemed panelists today. The first one is Mr. Umesh. Then we have Ms. Sidambil and then Ms. Linoy. So as we start off with this discussion, I would request our panel members to briefly introduce themselves, and then we'll start off with the questions. Mr. Umesh, may I request you to go first?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Drupad. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Shiba and Women Lead Congress, for providing me this opportunity to have a discussion in the panel with esteemed panel members. My name is Umesh Mulchandani, and I have an experience of more than 2.5 decades in the technology sector. I am a technologist by heart. I have progressed my career in many industries, including sales and distribution, shipping and logistics, retail, manufacturing, contracting, and many more. And during my progressive career, I have progressed from being just a technologist towards providing the business value by implementing latest technology solutions and emerging technologies. On the educational front, I am an MBA and I have done my master's in leadership from Thunderbird School of Global Management. And currently I am pursuing a doctorate. I'm a doctoral candidate in Golden Gate University, doing my doctorate in emerging technologies and particularly on Gen AI. That's about me. Thank you.
Welcome to the panel, Mr. Umesh. Do I have Ms. Sidambil here?
Proceed with Linoy and then
Sure. Yes, Ms. Linoy, go ahead, please. Linoy?
Can you hear me?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Right. Hello?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Linoy Kitts. I currently work at HSBC as the CIB ASP CIO. And I've been in the bank 20 years. I started in London, then went to Hong Kong, then China, then Mexico, Dubai. So pretty much been worldwide. And then on my side job, I build schools. So I've built schools all over the world. And I believe in ethical AI, but we'll get into that later. Thank you. And thank you very much for the invite.
Welcome to the panel, Linoy and Umesh. I think Ms. Sidambil will join in a while. We will start off with our discussions and we will rope her in as soon as she is in. Requesting Dr. Shiba to just quickly alert me once our third speaker is in. All right, so let me direct the first question to Mr. Umesh. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that the trust in the digital world has been a well-debated subject even before AI was in the picture. We have been hearing it for not past several years, but several decades. And now it has become all the more important. And I think our session squarely tries to address that particular aspect of AI, cybersecurity, and digital trust. And we have this esteemed lineup of panelists. Let me first go to Mr. Umesh and ask him about his views about the cybersecurity framework. So, Mr. Umesh, would you like to respond to this? Our current cybersecurity frameworks that we have, are they sufficient for AI-driven systems? Or do we need entirely new models for this AI era threats? What do you think about it?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Drupad. Okay, let me start by having this famous saying, the only constant is change. Now, this phrase captures cybersecurity perfectly today. Because in this AI era, the threat surface is not just expanding, It's becoming adaptive to the environment, adaptive to the data, adaptive to the surroundings. Now, when we talk about current cybersecurity frameworks, so my view is that current cybersecurity frameworks are necessary, but they are not sufficient for AI-driven systems. We do not need to throw them away and start from scratch or start from zero. But what we need is to extend them into the AI-aware security models. So I have a few takes on this. The first one is let us acknowledge what still works in the cybersecurity. The traditional frameworks such as zero trust, identity and access management, secure software development, vulnerability management, logging, incident response, third-party risk governance, and there are many more. They do remain essential as of today also. AI system, they are still running on the infrastructure, APIs, data pipelines, cloud platforms, and human processes. So the fundamentals of cybersecurity, they still do apply on these environments, and cybersecurity do not disappear just because a new AI model has come into the picture, right? It's involved. So this is the first point. Second point is that AI introduces the risk that traditional frameworks were not designed to handle it and to handle deeply enough. So what we face now is the threats such as prompt injection, training data poisoning, model invasion, insecure plugin, or tool use, excessive agency or in autonomous systems, leakage through model outputs. So these are the new threat landscapes which are emerging by adopting the new AI models. Now, OAuth's work on LLM application security specifically identifies these distinct risk classes. And while MITRE Atlas maps adversarial techniques targeting AI-enabled systems. Okay, so this tells us that clearly that the AI is not just another application layer. It creates new attack paths and new failure modes. And the third one, what I would like to say is that this is the reason why the answer is not replacement but evolution. If we see this AI risk management framework, which is created to help organization manage risk associated with AI systems across design, development, deployment, and use, they also published the Gen AI profile to help organizations adopt the framework specifically to Gen AI use cases. So what I'm trying to say, in other words, is the direction from leading standard bodies is not abandon the cybersecurity frameworks which are currently prevailing in the landscape, but augment them with AI-specific governance, testing, and assurance. So if I have to provide all these things in how we can implement them in practice, I would suggest 4 additional points to summarize all this, to adopt them in the practical environment and have them in the cybersecurity program for AI frameworks. The first one is secure the model lifecycle, not only the application lifecycle. So if you are deploying some model from the starting, from conceptual stage to the finishing stage towards having the output of that model, everything has to be secured in a holistic way. Second one is treat the data provenance and integrity as security controls, not only the data management concerns. Okay. So you don't have to just manage the data, you have to have the controls and security controls over the data governance. Third one is third one is introducing the AI red teaming to check on prompt attacks, manipulation, drifts, and unsafe autonomous behavior of AI agents. And the fourth and last one would be establishing human accountability and kill switch governance for high impact AI decisions. So these are the 4 points which I would say that should be incorporated into current cybersecurity framework for the AI.
Very well said, Mr. Umesh. I think you have highlighted this very pertinently that the current frameworks are, although necessary, but not sufficient. And something very interesting which you just described is, in order to have those AI-aware models, we need to also recognize that now the attack paths are becoming very different, and so are the attack modes. Very well said. Let me go to our next speaker, Ms. Linoy, and gather her thoughts on this next pertinent question about the organizations building digital trust. So, Linoy, may I ask you to respond to this? Can organizations truly build digital trust without full transparency into AI decision-making process? Is that a reality? Is that a practice that you are looking forward to? What are your thoughts on this?
It's a very tricky question, and I've had a lot of thought about it since getting the question to now. But basically, I think you really need to have independent validation. You need to have model audits, so AI safety lab tests for bias, any drift, accuracy, and publish a summary. You need red teaming. So in some instances, you can actually pay to ensure that your model is not breaking anything within the organization, and then publish the findings. And then, of course, the certification. So there is a new AI Act, which I'm sure everyone knows about. So you need to ensure that you are certified within that, because with any new tool, you need to ensure that your client safety is at the heart of it. And then, I really believe in this. You need to have the human in the loop, in the loop. So make sure that the pattern works, that it has an AI flag, but it also has the human confirmation and the human sign off as well. And you need to show work in progress and work on the parameters. What data was trained on it? How do you test for bias? We're really looking at the moment into gender, ethnicity, etc., specifically on the new AI models, and who can change it, who can actually change that. Has it had legal sign off? And what are the failure rates with it? And then once you have that, although you don't have full transparency, you can have some negation of control, and therefore you can effectively build trust in AI without full transparency. But you have to be very careful and put control in place. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, absolutely to a great extent. Let me just add, one more point here. What, according to you, would be a desired state? You said, ultimately, some sort of transparency will have to be built, and visibility of the decision-making process as well. So, what, according to you, would be an optimal or a desired state, to achieve that?
To be honest, right, specifically in banking, we have to be very, very careful with everything that we put live, because it needs to go through compliance, and it needs to go through ensure that it hits, level 1, 2, and 3 of our risk and control. So for me, what I want to see is progress, but with very little risk, and that's that's the sweet spot. So if you can create that, and you can reduce your time to production because of that, that is the perfect journey, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Perhaps in the UAE, the provisions of Reg 10 will also apply to the banking sector, isn't it?
Correct.
Right. Do we have our speaker here, Dr. Shiba, the third speaker, Ms. Sidample? I have a question for her. If not, I'll open it up for the other two panelists, Mr. Umesh and Ms. Linoy. I think Sidample is still not in. She's trying to join, but I think there's some technical difficulty at her end. Mr. Umesh, you are in. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good. Yeah. I'm so glad to see you finally. You managed to connect. So here is the question. Welcome to the panel, first of all. And We are having a very interesting discussion around this whole concept of digital trust, specifically with the backdrop of AI cybersecurity in today's environment, as you're aware. My question to you, Sudhambil, is this: how do we address the growing AI responsibility gap, where no single entity owns the end-to-end risk accountability? Over
Okay,
to you.
thank you. That's a very good question. Hey, because the AI responsibility gap is real. Given the modern systems that are not necessarily owned by a single owner. So given that AI systems are not necessarily owned by a single owner, you need to make sure that all the relevant owners are held accountable. And how do we do that? By making sure that we have proper governance processes, proper governance framework. And as part of that governance framework, we need to make sure that we define end-to-end accountability for either developers, data providers, cloud platforms, integrators, and end users. So that's very essential because obviously it's a shared responsibility model. But as much as it's a shared responsibility model, we need to make sure that everyone knows what exactly he or she is accountable for in the process. Because without that, there'll be a finger pointing exercise should something happen. All right. So yeah, that's what I've realized. But in order to do that, you must have proper races that are defined. And as part of the race, you define who's responsible, who's accountable, who's consulted, and who should be informed. And this accountability model will include, like I said earlier on, data, which will be your data sourcing, model development, deployment, and even monitoring of the incidents. If an incident happens, who's responsible? All right. And then obviously we need to leverage on the best practice frameworks for us to come up with this, like NIST AI framework, ISO standard, for instance. So that's very important. Okay, there is an ISO standard that can help in this regard. It's called ISO IEC 42001, which is for AI management for systems. And the standard, it helps in terms of the governance framework that I'm talking about right now. But further to that, we know that there's too much dependency on third parties. So AI often sits in third-party components. For instance, your APIs, your pre-trained models, your data sets. Then who's responsible? Are the vendors held accountable? How do we make sure that the defined
Sorry,
models are not biased or are not
may I
harmful?
just request other participants to keep their microphone off, please? Hello, everyone. Hi, I think it's Nezar. May I request Mr. Nezar or the admin? Admin, can you just mute that microphone? Thank you, thank you. Yes, sorry, Sadam. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. As I was still saying, we need to make sure that as part of the process, the third parties are held accountable across the entire value chain. For instance, in your contracts, do you have explicit clauses that hold the third parties liable for the models that they've developed, just to make sure that they're not biased or harmful? And what happens if the model fails? So we should make sure that in our contracts we have all those aspects covered. And we always talk about transparency. Are our models transparent enough? Do we have security controls as part of the models? What about incidents, like I said earlier on? So that should definitely be part of your SLAs. It should be clearly defined in your SLAs. Otherwise, you won't be able to hold anyone accountable if something happens. So basically, it's about making sure that throughout the entire value chain, there are defined roles and responsibilities. And this is not new. This is something that we've been doing in the past. If we develop systems, we make sure that security is integrated throughout the life cycle. Same thing applies with regards to AIs. We need to make sure that cybersecurity is taken into consideration throughout the life cycle. In addition, the data governance processes must be in place to make sure that the responsible people are held accountable. Yeah. And then obviously there are regulatory framework that are assisting in this regard. So for instance, if you've got the relevant acts, just make sure that your policies or your frameworks are aligned to the relevant acts. For instance, in South Africa, we've got Papaya, which is now extending to automated decision making. So we need to make sure that we align to those requirements. I'm aware that EU AI Act assigns obligations by role. For instance, the provider, the deployer, the importer, has got the relevant responsibilities. So we just need to make sure that we align with the relevant legislation that guides us in this regard. But the most important thing is to make sure that we don't treat either data governance or cybersecurity as an afterthought, because if we do that, then we will have a serious problem. Thank you.
Very well said. This should not be an afterthought. And I think the education of the senior decision makers in the organization plays a key role, specifically in Middle East, for example, where we have a large number of organizations that have grown organically, small organizations, mid-size organizations, and not all enterprises that have got a very neat and clean enterprise architecture in place. So that's something which is actually a very good lesson for all of us. Let me now go around and get some thoughts from our speakers on the very diverse range of issues that we have discussed so far. And if I may go around and ask each one of you to briefly comment on these topics that we discussed today, diverse, rich thoughts coming out from our panel members. What do you have to say about, as an end note, on the cybersecurity frameworks, the responsibility gap, and also the transparency in the AI decision-making process? If I ask you to sum it up in maybe 2 minutes as a quick takeaway for all our attendees here, what would that be? May I request Mr. Umesh to go first?
Okay, so to sum it up and answer this question directly, I would say that there is no current framework alone which are like current frameworks are not sufficient alone. Okay. But what's the answer? No, we do not need entirely to new models from scratch either. Okay, we have already built a base foundation for last so many years of the cybersecurity, because AI models deployment and working also requires some environments which we have been using for last so many years, whether it is cloud computing, whether it is IT infrastructure, whether it is APIs. So for those handling those scenarios, we already have some foundations of cybersecurity. But yeah, by deploying new AI models, have expanded the space of the vulnerability attack area. Okay, and to cover up that up, we need the model, the frameworks to evolve and put the guardrails and controls in place so that we can handle the complete life cycle of AI properly and securely, starting from conceptualizing the deployment of the model towards having the correct prediction and having a correct decision making through that model. So different places, each area has to be looked separately. And of course, there's a need to have an human intervention that cannot go away. So that is a prime and critical, important thing which needs to be deployed to have a control on the entire life cycle.
Very well said. I think you have summed it up beautifully. And yes, it is difficult and challenging to address these issues, especially at a senior leadership level where you are supposed to have an oversight and also ensure that the organization is able to follow these frameworks. You also mentioned about this ever-evolving nature of the framework, and I think the time will only tell us as to what is the extent to which these current frameworks need to evolve to address the challenges that are actually posed by the AI era threats. Let me now go to Ms. Linoy, and Linoy, quick takeaway, quick wrap up from your side. What do you think? And we have discussed a very diverse range of topics, predominantly in the area of accountability, cybersecurity frameworks, responsibility gap, and also the transparency which you addressed initially. So if I request you to give just quick 2 minute sort of an overview, what that essence would be. Over to you.
Yeah, so whenever I do a panel or a conference like this, people always ask me, "Are you scared about your jobs?" And there's this quote that I'm going to try and quote. I don't think AI is going to take over. I think if you're the person not using AI or utilizing AI, then you're going to be in trouble at a later date. So I would just want to go back to the ethical AI use, if I can. A few years ago, I set up a joint graduate training program with Microsoft, and we did 6 months in HSBC and 6 months in Microsoft. And those graduate trainees took AI and matched irises of missing kids in China and brought them back to their families. So when I say you can really use AI for good, you really can, but you need to use the framework, which I mentioned before, to ensure that you are compliant and are using it in the right way, in the ethical way, and making sure that, the bias is not built inside the model. So that's what I would want to leave you with.
All right, well said. And I think you have touched upon this, one of the most debated aspects of AI, the loss of jobs. And happy to hear that there is some light at the end of this tunnel. Great. Let me now go to Sideml and request her to respond to the issues that we have discussed today. Sideml, what's your final take on the agenda for this session for AI, cybersecurity, and digital trust? Any quick takeaways for our attendees today?
Yes. So what I can say is when it comes to an approach that one can take, there's no one size fit all. It always depends on the maturity of the organization. So AI leaders should continuously redesign their AI team structures and functions in line with their AI maturity. For instance, if your organization is still at a lower maturity in terms of usage of AI or adopting AI, then you can adopt what we call center of excellence. Some people call it center of community of excellence, but basically that's where you make sure that the relevant principles or your governance processes are embedded throughout the AI journey in the business. All right, but that process is usually helpful only in the early phases of your AI adoption. Once you mature, then you need to then infuse the relevant teams to the relevant business areas, because you'll find that the COEs, yes, they are helpful, but not as
Not audible. Sidambil, I think we lost you again.
in one department, the level of maturity is higher than maybe another department somewhere else. All right. So even there, adopt an approach that is more suitable for that department. If they are more mature, then maybe center of excellence might not be that useful for that department. That's where you then need to infuse the SMEs that can help them on that journey, just to make sure that nothing is left during their life cycle, or during your product life cycle. Whereas if there's a department that is still maybe in its infancy stages in terms of adopting AI, or maybe producing AI products, then yes, they can still leverage on the center of excellence. But it always depends on the maturity. So we need to be careful and not try to adopt one approach that will not necessarily work for all types of organizations or for all departments within a big organization. That's my takeaway on this one. Thank you.
Absolutely, one size will not fit all. Very well said. And ladies and gentlemen, with this, we come to the conclusion of today's panel discussion. This is panel 4 on AI, cybersecurity, and digital trust. Concluding now, please join me in extending a big round of applause, of course, virtually, to our esteemed panelists, Mr. Umesh, Ms. Sidembil, and Lenoy, for the thoughts and insights that they have shared. Feel free, be generous with the applauses, virtual ones, of course. And we will now go to our prize distribution. Do I have someone from WLC taking care of that? Before that, just a quick announcement. Please do download the Ethosverse application, and the link has been given on the chat as well. All right, over to the prizes.
I would request Women Lead Congress team to run the spin the wheel.
Oh, so that's me. All right. That was a surprise.
Pleasant surprise.
Congratulations.
All right. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
And this is, I think, very much needed. Thank you so much. Looking forward to this masterclass by Ms. Subela. Thank you so much. All right,
You're
great.
welcome.
So
Thanks.
thank you. Thank you so much. So we now come to the conclusion, and I take this opportunity to invite the next panel. The moderator is Dr. Shiva S. Hasnain. This panel is on the theme of building inclusive AI, addressing biases and fairness. Dr. Shiva, over to you, please.